So, hi guys. So, a lot of the time we're so used to seeing edited photos and things with filters added, things taken away, manipulated images, everything from portraiture to landscapes to whatever. Things have been removed, things have been added. So half the time, if it's done properly and it's done well, and it's not over the top, it's actually really hard to actually see if it's been edited or not. Well, I took this shot last week and I actually edited it with the sun behind it, because the sun was going down, but unfortunately where I was, and this happened within 10 seconds of these seagulls flying around, there's no way I could have got into the right position. I would have had about 100 meters or so to run to get the right angle to get the sun behind. So sometimes it's out of your hand, and sometimes it's just not really possible, and that's where editing comes into play. So this shot, it has potential, and it's one of those things that you just need something like a bit of sunlight to come in. So here's this shot here of the sun, and actually some clouds and everything running sort of in front of it, so you end up with almost like a stripe across. So my plan was to actually drop the seagulls in front. Let's get rid of that, and then basically have the seagulls with the sunset behind them. And I thought, well, okay, that's doable. Some editing is very easy. Photoshop is a brilliant tool, depending on what you want to use. If you use something else, it's absolutely fine. It's about what you know and how you can do it. Obviously YouTube is brilliant because you can actually search for a video to help you, and hopefully someone's done one before. And simple layer techniques. So I've just got two layers here, and if we're at the top one, which is actually the seagulls, so if I click it away, you basically got the sun behind. So you can actually click in to basically the blending differences there. So I'm going to leave that, and I'll just use my arrow keys to go down, and then we end up with different ways of making the image look better or worse, depending on what we're doing. So you end up with some interesting effects, and depending on what you're doing, it could look quite cool. So anyway, so if we actually leave that there for a sec, we can actually now move the image around to something like that. And you're probably thinking, yeah, but there's a load missing at the bottom, and there's a little bit onto the right hand side there. It all looks a bit crazy. So let's carry on going through until we find something, or possibly find something that's going to look good. There's that version. What was that? Hard light. And you've got that one which is vivid light, linear light, and then you end up with a pin light, hard light, difference, and then that there, and then obviously like a divide version, and then sort of gets a bit crazy, and then you can't see the seagulls at all. I can't actually remember which one I actually did before, but it possibly could be overlay, or it actually could be that one there, linear burn. This might be the one, because I still want it kind of looking silhouette-y. As you can see there, we've got a bit of a darkish edge going around and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to crop. This is the benefit of the Sony A7R4, the fact we can crop in and lose a load of the image without actually really worrying about a lot of the shot. And what I wanted to do was I actually quite like having the bird over here on the left hand side. So doing that and giving us roughly the right thing. I don't think that's actually linear burn, might be a bit too crazy, but it gives us basically it's already given us an image that actually looks quite good. You can see it's quite aggressive around some of the birds, so that could be a bit of an issue. So let's go back through. Is it that one? Multiply? It could be multiply actually. darken, no. Multiply is the most, for this image anyway, it looks the most subtle. And this is where we can start messing around with how it's going to work. But now I've cropped away the bits I don't want, I've moved the image around, so obviously you can still do that again. You can move it around and see how you might want to sit the seagulls. I actually put this photograph up on my Facebook page, but I didn't say anything. I just wanted to see if my editing skills were convincing. If I edit a photo like this, I would always say it's a composite, or I've edited this together, just because, one, I like to teach people and let people learn how to do things, and some things just aren't possible. You know, at the end of the day, sometimes you just can't get the shot you'd like. But if you manage to take, you know, a couple of images that you can actually use, a bit like this, I mean, it's only a bit of fun. This, you know, it's just the fact the seagulls, someone threw some old fish bits up from when they've been fishing, and the seagulls went nuts. So it's a bit of an action shot, you know, and it kind of works. So anyway, you know, but I'll always be honest and tell people that, say, yeah, it's not, I mean, it's real, but it's two images that have been utilised together to create something slightly different. And you've got to remember that photography is art, and you know, it can be used well to create something a little bit more interesting than the original shot, which might look a little bit boring, you know. So what's quite cool about this is the way the wings are actually translucent. It's you know, allowing some light to come through the wings, or colour should we say, so it actually gives the appearance of the sunlight coming through. So it does work quite well. But what we're actually going to do is, we're just on the layer 1, which is the seagulls. I'm just going to go back into filter and then camera raw. I just want to add some black because I just want to bring the seagulls down a bit, just to give them a bit more of a silhouette shot, because at the end of the day I would have had more of a silhouette, especially at that shutter speed. You know, it would have been sort of 1/2000th upwards, maybe 1/4000th of a second upwards to get what I'd like. And then we're going to go to the actually we're going to go back into the same layer and the camera raw, and just to see if I can lighten up a little bit. There we go. Just lighten up with a bit of the shadows. Just brings out a bit more of the wings there and everything as well. I'm going to go back in there one more time. Normally I would just do this in one hit, but because I just want to show you guys what I was doing, we could crank the clarity up a little bit, but you've got to be very careful. I'll crank it up all the way. You can see it brings around harsh edges around here and actually bleeds out into the image itself, which gives you a real obvious reason why, you know, it's actually been edited. So got to be a bit careful on what we do. So maybe just a couple of bits. Just it doesn't really sharpen it. Just kind of like brings out things like the wings a bit and things like that. So and then what we're going to do is drop the blacks down a little bit more, just on that area. So now I've brought up this area a second ago, and it looks pretty good now. There we go. So it's silhouetted enough, but at the same time, you know, you can see the seagulls, you can see the light coming onto the wings and stuff like that, which it was doing. In the actual real world, the actual sun was over to the right hand side, about 25-30 degrees out of shot. So there's no way I could have got this shot without actually being in the right place. And like I said, it was quite a bit of a run. Photoshop and other editing tools, you kind of learn for yourself how to use them, and there is multiple, even many hundreds of ways or even thousands of ways of doing something. So the way I'm doing this, you might think, oh, that's wrong, but actually it's how I've learned how to do it. I've taught myself how to do certain things just by experimentation. It might not be the most efficient way, but it gets me to the point where I wanted it, and it works. So obviously if you're doing huge amounts of work and stuff like that, it might be better to try and find a more efficient way, you know, and you know, you can learn from that. But like I say, there's plenty of videos on YouTube to look at for Photoshop and other programs. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is literally flatten the image. We're just going to flatten the image, which is now basically made it one layer. Because it's kind of done really. There's a couple of little things I want to do. I'm going to tidy up here, which is that wing there from another bird. So we're just going to go to the spot healing brush tool. And it is on normal and content aware. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in, and we're just going to rub it away, and hopefully it disappears. There we go. Looks pretty good. The only bit I'm a little bit worried about is you've got a little bit of darkness there, but other than that it's not too bad. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to use the dodge tool, and we're on mid-tones. And there's other ways of doing this. We could, before I do that, we could go back into the raw filter, which is quite a handy tool actually, I find, because you've got all the control that you might need. So we can obviously reduce saturation down, or crank it up a little bit to make it a bit more heat or whatever. But it also allows us to boost the shadows, which end up with some really funny greens and stuff like that, which is a bit strange. But I thought we might be able to, if we go into colour mixer, we might be able to, we've got luminance, we might be able to just boost it. This brings the sun out, makes the sun look a bit brighter. Takes your eye off that area there, which we may have to just do a little bit more. Okay, it's on the edge actually, so we can actually boost the reds up nicely. And then we've got saturation, which we can either get rid of or bring it up, so it's actually quite a bit more orange. But it's not looking so bad, and call that a day. There we go. So that's one way of doing an image, something like that. It works quite well. You know, it's not too bad. Like I say, we've got the dodge tool at the minute, so we could actually just run that round just to boost the light around this area, because it's quite darkened, and then it's not too bad. You know, we could go to burn tool, and we've got the shadows there, which could just add a little bit of burn to the seagull. Ideally you want to go a bit smaller so you can get in there really detailed, but it doesn't look too bad. It's one of those captures and you think, that really needed something. I shot probably 20 or 30 shots of the seagulls just as a burst of them doing stuff, hoping that I would capture an image that was usable, but it looked very boring because the sky was boring behind it. It was very flat. You know, there's a lot of different things. The other thing I always generally do is go to image, auto tone, and then it actually has boosted it a little bit there as well. You also got auto colour, which is brought it back down again. So it's about right. One thing I do like about it is you've got the beam of cloud going through the back there, but you also got cloud cover up here at the top, so it kind of makes it look a little bit more realistic as well. It's not just literally just a plain sky behind. So obviously you can see the seagulls. The one that's in focus is this one here. Everything else is a little bit softer or slightly out of focus, so it kind of adds a bit more of a, you know, shallow depth and a little bit more realistic to it as well. That's my opinion anyway. I know everyone's got their own thoughts, especially on art. Everyone's got their own opinion about art and photography and things like that, so it's just my view. Hopefully it's allowed and helped someone think, oh okay, that's how you do kind of little things like that. Layers and stuff like that are brilliant, so you can do so many different things with Photoshop, and simple layers are really easy to start messing around and bringing in and out things, or deleting things from images, you know, and then overlaying other things as well. So it's just basically a learning curve in itself. Just a bit of fun. I thought just it needed something. This might be too much for someone. They might think, oh actually it's too orange, it's just there. But the sunset was quite vibrant. And obviously I've cropped in on, I've actually made the sun bigger to fill the screen a bit more, and then I've actually cropped in on the seagulls, so it's roughly the same resolution on each one. But with that 61 megapixels, it's really handy that in fact you can lose a lot more image as well. So you know, I was doing a job a little while ago where I was doing some products, and basically I shot wider than I needed to because I needed to actually crop at a particular size for the web designer, for the website that I was working for, and to shoot the correct shots that I would normally have done, I would have been closer, I would have actually filled the frame properly, but because they were not, as you see here, roughly that sort of dimension, they were a bit more square, I really needed to leave plenty of space around the subject to allow me to crop in at the right aspect ratio. So that was a bit of a learning curve for myself, but also the brilliance of having that 61 megapixels, because if it was only 20 or 24 it would have really struggled on the detail level and everything like that. So you know, that was godsend really. That really made the A7R4 worth its money. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful, guys, or a bit interesting. I'll post the actual first photo that I actually did. It looked like slightly different to this, colours and stuff, but I just thought I'd show you how I did it. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and little notification bell as well. Any questions, feel free. Like I say, I don't edit a huge amount normally anyway, and if I do, I'll always say that I've edited it. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'd rather let people know. You know, sometimes, like for example the other day, I've not mentioned it yet on Facebook on my group, but I will post this video up and say, look guys, I just wanted to see who thought maybe it had been edited or if it was actually a legit capture. If I'd edited it well enough that you hadn't noticed or couldn't see that it had been edited, and obviously now here is the video. So anyway, I'm going to put a couple of other pictures in as well that I took that day which haven't been edited. They're literally just down on the beach there. A few other shots of people doing stuff, and they were shot with, it was all shot with the A7R4, and I had the 100 or 400 G Master on, shooting in manual as I normally do, and just a bit of interest really. And yeah, just really lovely evening. It was really calm, and just a pleasure to watch the sun go down, and you know, just see other things as well. So people doing their thing. Anyway, don't forget, like I say, don't forget to click the subscribe button, the little notification bell as well. Please leave a comment below. Don't forget to click the thumbs up. It really helps. I'll see you soon. So just a quick one before we go. Here is a little bit of video footage of a fishing boat going out. They're pretty cool how they manoeuvre them. They get pushed onto the into the water by a bulldozer, being put on bits of wood and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. Speedboat of some sort coming past. That's pretty cool to watch. That's me being not particularly steady with it for some reason. But the actual stabilisation on the lens, and obviously the body, is actually very good. So, I could have just done with rotating the camera slightly to level up that horizon, so obviously that's not ideal. But as you can see there, absolutely fine. And then onto a few of the photos. There's a couple of paddle boarders there, and that's Dungeness Power Station in the distance there, nuclear power station. That's actually France. So from the southeast of England you can actually see France on a clear day. That's that speedboat again, and then some kind of other boat out in the distance. I'm not sure what it was. Quite like the silhouette of the dog. It was kind of like looking at something and obviously concentrating. Seagull. That's at 400. This is cropped in just to show you the resolution of the A7R4 there and how sharp that G Master lens is. Quite a slow shutter speed actually, 1/400th of a second. That, a little bit of motion blur on the wings, and some soft focus as they call it, shooting through about 10 feet of sort of undergrowth, grasses and stuff to give you a softer image. And then just one final shot there, the moon. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Any questions or etc, please feel free to ask, and I shall see you soon.